Kahit triple na ang level ng likod ni baby, kaya yan ng bagong triple leak protection ng EQ Pants. Merong triple levels ng harang para iwas leaks. Anytime, anywhere. Kampante si Mommy on the go! New EQ Pants with triple leak protection. Kahit triple na ang level ng likod ni baby, kaya yan ng bagong triple leak protection ng EQ Pants. Merong triple levels ng harang para iwas leaks. Anytime, anywhere. Kampante si Mommy on the go! New EQ Pants with triple leak protection.
Are you a stakeholder in the construction industry? Ever wondered how you can give back to the community using your main products and services? Or are you a non-profit involved in building structures and facilities aimed at helping the poor and overcoming poverty? Fair Building Network is an organization aimed at creating a more socially inclusive construction market. The Fair Building Network is a social marketplace facilitating collaboration to help to improve the life of those less fortunate while creating business opportunities. To be part of the Fair Building Network, visit the website and click on Get Involved. It only takes a couple of minutes to build a better life for people less fortunate than us around the world.
Kahit triple na ang level ng likod ni baby, kaya yan ng bagong triple leak protection ng EQ Pants. Merong triple levels ng harang para iwas leaks. Anytime, anywhere. Kampante si Mommy on the go! New EQ Pants with triple leak protection.
For us housing officials, as part of our guiding principle, we consider shelter as a right of every Filipino family. Maraming salamat at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Kahit triple na ang level ng likod ni baby, kaya yan ng bagong triple leak protection ng EQ Pants. Merong triple levels ng harang para iwas leaks. Anytime, anywhere. Kampante si Mommy on the go! New EQ Pants with triple leak protection.
Pambansang Awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang mag-ibig, ewas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang binirang, kuya ka ng mag-ibig, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagatang tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng bagaw, ay hinatang tulad, awit sa pagkayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iibig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang ay magdidinig, luma ng araw ng walhagit pagsinta, mo'y langit sa piling ko. Ang higaya na pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Lord God, our loving Father in the heavens, we thank you this day for the beauty and majesty we see in your creation. Thank you for the opportunity you have given us to care for the world you have made. Lord, as we meet today to conduct matters of business, may your peace abide in us. May you lead us by your Holy Spirit and inspire us into all truth. Kindly impart your wisdom to our speakers, guests, attendees, and also upon the whole activity so that our discussions may reach a successful conclusion. We humbly ask that your blessing linger on this affair to give us great vision and enthusiasm for our work. May you bless the efforts of our hands, the bonds between us, and the influence of our work in this country and beyond. Fill us, Lord, with your joy and love, and help us to put our plans into practice. We ask all of this in God's name through Christ our Savior. Amen.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second BAHAYnihan Forum. This is an online event that brings together various sectors to discuss, share, and present housing issues and solution. And today we are bringing together local government leaders to dig deeper into the role of local government units in providing access to adequate, affordable shelter. And before we invite our esteemed mayors, let's first hear from the co-organizers of this event, the Department of Human Settlement and Urban Development, Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario, to officially open the session and give the welcome message.
A pleasant day to everyone. Shelter is a vital component of every family's overall development, from shielding us against a storm to offering a much-needed comfort. Following a hard day's work, we can truly feel and say that there is no place like home. With the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the need for resilient and sustainable shelter has been highlighted more than ever. and today's BAHAYnihan, Rising Together through Housing Online Forum, is a perfect platform to further raise public awareness on the government's efforts to provide adequate and affordable housing, especially to the marginalized sector. Together with our key shelter agencies, trusted developers, and partner organizations like Habitat for Humanity, we at the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development remain steadfast in fulfilling our mandate and sustaining vibrancy in the housing industry. This online forum seeks to emphasize the role of local government units in our whole of nation approach to address shelter concerns. Hence, coordination between the government and the private sector is inevitable. In order for us to fulfill our dreams in having a decent and affordable shelter they can call their own. Let me therefore congratulate Habitat for Humanity Philippines for organizing this online forum to further educate all stakeholders towards our common goal of promoting sustainable and resilient Filipino communities. Habitat for Humanity has truly been one of our trusted partners that had shown commitment and sense of urgency in addressing the country's housing needs. With this, I would like to leave you some words of wisdom from American sociologist Matthew Desmond, who said, and I quote, "Housing is absolutely essential to human flourishing. Without stable shelter, it falls apart." Unquote. And for us housing officials, as part of our guiding principle, we consider shelter as a right of every Filipino family. Maraming salamat at mabuhay tayong lahat. As a right of every Filipino family. Maraming salamat at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you very much. And today we are joined by 3 local government units who have successfully planned and implemented their housing programs, particularly for the informal settler and low-income families. We have this morning Mayor Rene Gustilo of San Carlos City, Mayor Joy Belmonte of Quezon City, and Mayor Jonas Cortez of Mandaue City, who is represented by Tony Petuanico, Head of Housing and Urban Development Office. They will be presenting their housing program, its challenges, and the lessons they have learned. Let me first invite Mayor Rene Gustilo of San Carlos City to present how the city is able to plan a comprehensive and sustainable housing program. Good morning to you, Mayor. To present how the city is
Gandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. So good na?
You can go ahead, Mayor, with your presentation, sir. Thank you. We're ready.
Good morning, Karen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be here in this BAHAYnihan Forum to talk to you about one of San Carlos City's pride, our multi-awarded home lot and social housing projects. It is a fact that around the world, some people are living without a permanent home, and our city, though very small, is not spared from such reality. Being government servant, we need to address this issue to elevate our people from very important basic needs. Next slide, please. In February 1994, San Carlos City started with the home lot program called Lote para sa Mahirap to cater to squatters in the poblacion area comprising the fish vendors, pedicab drivers, and low-income residents. So far, 824 lots with 54 square meters each were already served to relocated family, and that is continuing now. Beneficiaries were given the easy installment term of 5 pesos a day for 5 days a week and 5 years, which they happily accepted. Next slide, please. On the other hand, we also embarked on another housing program in July 1998. This time, a socialized housing for our government employees who were just renting and don't own any land or property in the city or anywhere in the country. This project produced 108 houses with 90 square meter lot each. Payment term for this is also payable in easy installment through payroll deduction in the amount of 235 pesos and 50 centavos only per month or for 5 years, with the housing component is payable to Consuelo Foundation for a period of 10 years. This project is also continuing under the present San Camille Socialized Housing. Next slide, please. From this program, the renters and squatters sprouted various housing projects including the Gawad Kalinga and lately the Habitat for Humanity, which includes Phase 6 of the Metrobank Village that provided good and decent shelter for our constituents, especially those employees from the San Carlos Milling Company that closed a few years back. Next slide, please. Being a small city, we are one of the main mode of transportation is the pedicab. Our pedicab drivers made up 2.1% of the total employed, whom most have no homes of their own. This is the reason why the city government is considering building a two-story tenement exclusively for pedicab or tricycle drivers and their families, since it would be more practical in terms of land acquisition and construction costs for the government and payment affordability for the beneficiaries. Next slide, please. Of course, we have also anticipated the influx of people in the city seeking greener pasture, which may increase squatters in the future. And farm-to-market roads have been built to decentralize economic development towards the rural barangays where people are also being empowered to learn and to concentrate on agri-farm development. We are also open to NGOs for possible assistance or partnerships so we can further serve our people. Next slide, please. We are happy that the city government started this project since then, from 1994 up to now. We have already acquired around 20 hectares for the home lot on socialized housing project funded fund, and our budget allocation for land acquisition has reached over these plans and dreams for our constituents are made feasible and are our programs and projects for their housing needs. Next slide, please. Indeed, providing people affordable lots and decent homes really help them build a foundation to get on in life. The impact of this program is very impressive that the city was awarded with the Gawad Galing Puok Hall of Fame Awards. Galing Puok in 2008, Malungtarong Lungsod Award for Continuing Excellence. Best Practice Award for Local Drive Against Professional Squatters and Squatting Syndicates, and so on. But what is more meaningful, aside from the recognition that beneficiaries become more productive and their standards of living increase, which can be seen in their improved houses or dwelling. It has also improved the local economy as eviction from private lands where these squatters came and paved the way for these vacated lands to be converted into commercial areas. I want to emphasize here that we attributed the success of this program and all other programs we have on our political will to continue what our predecessors have started. We make sure that what have been implemented by the last mayors will be continued by the next administration. Hence our Sangguniang Panglum
All right. I think, yes. All right, Mayor. Okay, I'm just checking because we lost you a bit. Just to close, your signal has been going on and off.
Sorry Karen ha. Hindi ko alam kung bakit nagkaganon yung signal natin. Siguro
Okay
may
lang po.
diferensya yung flow.
Opo. Pero ang galing po ng presentation ninyo. It's quite impressive.
Salamat po. Karen, sa sinabi ko lang po, ito pong mga program natin, Karen, because of the continuity of our party. Hindi po pwede, Karen, na pag-upo ng bagong mayor, hindi niya itutuloy yung mga project what they have started before. The next mayor should always continue the project based on the 25 years master development plan of the city of San Carlos.
Okay. All right. Mayor Rene, I'll be back. I know you're joining the panel, so I have a few questions from you later on. So thank you so much. It gives you a time also to fix your signal a bit. Your staff is there. I know. So after Mayor Rene Gustillo of San Carlos City, now let's have with us Mayor Joy Belmonte of Quezon City, who faces different challenges given the fact that it is the most populous city in the Philippines with enormous informal settlement issues. So Quezon City needs its comprehensive long-term socialized housing program that's affordable, sustainable. And let's hear it from Mayor Joy Belmonte. Mayor Joy, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Karen. Nice to see you. And good morning to everyone who is watching our forum. So we can start the presentation.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. So may I have the first slide, please? Matula. So my presentation is called In-City Relocation, Effective Housing Program for Informal Settler Families. Housing has always been among the priorities of Quezon City. The previous administration built some 2,941 housing units for our low-income wage earners, for which our city won a Galing Pook Award. However, informal settler families were mostly relocated to NHA units outside the city. And our units in the city were for low-income employees of the government and other agencies. Next slide, please. Seeing opportunities to improve on this program, the City Council passed the Comprehensive Socialized Housing Code in 2018. The ordinance focused on housing as a human right and recognized that a single model for housing was not sufficient to meet the needs of its people. Our housing policy also leaned heavily on in-city housing as a means of shelter before recourse to off-site options. It therefore recognized that even the poorest families had to have choices. Most importantly, it views the people as partners and is guided by their diverse circumstances in planning their shelter needs. Next slide, please. The city's housing challenges are great. As of September 2019, we recorded about 214,000 informal settler families, which corresponds to about 30% of our population of 3.1 million people. The majority of them live on private properties, but a considerable number, or about 29%, live in danger zones. Our priority now in terms of built housing is to provide for those who live in these danger zones, particularly along waterways. Next slide, please. Those who live along danger zones are among our most underprivileged citizens, which is the reason why we introduced the concept of rental housing among our menu of housing options, and even transitional housing for families affected by natural disasters like floods and typhoons, as well as calamities like fire. For this first term of our administration, our target is to provide housing for about 10,000 informal settler families. Due to the pandemic, we could not embark on big-ticket infrastructure projects last year. Instead, we repurposed the unfinished housing units of the previous administration into rental housing units, and we concentrated on pursuing our direct sale program so as to give opportunities for those living on private properties to own the land on which their houses are built. Next slide, please. During the last administration, when I served as the vice mayor, the city council passed several measures to help us pursue our housing initiatives, especially in the area of financing. These include the Socialized Housing Tax Ordinance, the Idle Land Tax Ordinance, the Socialized Housing Special Account, the Balanced Housing Compliance Provision in our local housing code, and the Public-Private Partnership Code to create a framework for private sector participation in the development of industrial estates and housing. Next slide, please.
Nandito pala siya.
Restrained by the pandemic, we concentrated last year on identifying and increasing our land inventory for housing via the following means: donation, purchase, land swapping, forfeiture, expropriation, usufruct, long-term lease, purchase with donation, and various government-to-government agreements. We broke ground in some of these sites in the fourth quarter of last year, and now construction is ongoing on several of them. Next slide, please. In terms of access to housing for our people, apart from what is already familiar to us, we introduced in-house financing to complement our direct sale program and to be more flexible for the underprivileged whose sources of income are erratic. Like I said, we also introduced rental housing as a housing policy, and as consensus among the members of our local housing board and approved by the city council, rental fees shall be fixed at 800 pesos monthly to increase every 3 years. Most of our ongoing constructions at present are rental housing units because this mode is the most accessible and affordable to the very low income earners. This is testament to our conviction that housing is a basic human right and that poverty should not be an obstacle to decent shelter. So to end, I'd like to compliment what Mayor Rene Agustilo said, that we must always continue what our predecessors have done. In our case, what we did was we saw the weaknesses of the housing projects of our previous administration, of which I was also a part, and we tweaked our shelter plan to address these problems. And now we have come up with our own shelter plan, which hopefully is an improved version of what we have done before. And as the saying goes, we always have to stand on the shoulders of giants, but what we create must, of course, be improvements excellence of what our predecessors have done before. So thank you very much and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you so much, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte. And later, I think we have more questions to ask you. One of that is, how do you address the growing population of Quezon City, and where do you see it ballooning to, no, in the next few years? Just how big are you seeing that? But before that, let's go first to another highly urbanized city in Cebu province. Mandaue City, just like Quezon City, has its own massive poverty housing problem rather. Let's hear from Tony Pet Juanito, head of the Housing and Urban Development Office, who is representing Mayor Jonas Cortez, who is unable to join us today. Good morning to you, Mr. Tony Pet.
Yes, good morning, Karen. I'm very privileged to share to you our good practices in Mandaue City. Okay, informal settlements in our city. The growth of informal settlements, slums, and poor residential neighborhoods is a global phenomenon accompanying the growth of urban populations. As estimated, 25% of the world's urban population live in informal settlements, with 213 million informal settlement residents added to the global population since 1990. So in our city, we establish and partner with the Social Housing Finance Corporation, national housing agencies, and other national offices for housing. Next slide, please. As a result, we already have established, in partnership with some national agencies, we established 27 barangays relocation. Now, beforehand, let me show to you the city's profile. Now, the city of Mandaue is a highly urbanized city since 1991, located at the heart of Cebu with a total land area of 30.64 square kilometers. We have having a 27 barangays. The population of approximately 331,320. Projected population by 2021 to 2021 is 420,145, with 37 manufacturing concerns. Due to the declaration of highly urbanized city and one of the highly urbanized city in Mandaue, we established 33 relocation sites in partnership with the national agencies. And at the same time, we have a total of 5,285 households who became beneficiaries of this project. We also established 157 homeowners association accredited in our office, and we identified 14,591 households. So, including the informal settlers in danger areas, we have established 1,308 households. So, right now, it is worthy to note that we have one relocation in Barangay Paknaan who has 1,200 beneficiaries coming from danger zone. So this is in partnership also with the Habitat for Humanity for the relocation site. We also have next slide, please. Right now, due to some fortuitous events and at the same time with the weather condition is unpredictable, we established some sites for relocations. And to support that, we have some enabling laws like city ordinances to support our projects, housing projects. So in our end, sometime in June 27, 2019, we experienced a fire coming from Barangay Tipolo. And we have identified 530 fire victims on the area. So as plan of the city, the informal shelters is a highly congested area of the city, and at the same time, it is a great risk to various hazards. There are low-income Mandawianos who live in these areas after the fire, diseases, flooding, and other natural disasters. 3 sitios in Tipolo were placed under a state of calamity following a dawn fire that struck in June 27, 2019. The fire displaced about 1,200 families living in 752 residential establishments. So according to the firefighters, it was left due to cell phone. Caused the blaze. Firefighters also had trouble responding as the road leading to the area was too narrow for firefighters. In short, the site development was also one of the issues that we encountered during our site development. Next slide, please. So we envision that the city has the vision and value propositions, meaning there is a resilient socialized housing community for 530 families and a safe, resilient community with minimal rent, basic utilities, easy access to basic health and social services, employment and opportunities, sufficient open areas for community activities, and green futures for overall development and structures. So we encourage now the low-rise housing project because the city is now encountering some challenges like the areas. We already have a lack of areas, so we decided to propose a vertical housing units in our city. Next slide, please. So one of our major area to be piloted of this project is Sitio Marlica in Barangay Tipolo, Mandaue City. So we believe that the city believe that this is a continuous program that needs more partnership of our stakeholder partners. So thank you. So that's it. Thank you very much, Karen.
Did you want to add something else, Mr. Tony Pet, or that was the closing?
Yes, that is already a closing, Karen.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So while our participants are still sending their questions for our speakers, I do have a few questions for the three of you. Can we put all of our speakers on the screen right now? So I can also take a photo of them. And what about Mayor Rene of San Carlos? Is he joining us still? Mayor Rene, is he available? Okay, so while we're also waiting for Mayor Rene of San Carlos City, I'll start first with Mayor Joy Belmonte. Mayor Joy, clearly you've done a lot of innovative and creative planning, no, when it comes to low-cost housing in Quezon City. I particularly like what you said, that even the poor and even low-cost housing deserve choices. But how are you handling the growth of the population in Quezon City if most of those who are moving to the city belong to that income bracket? Number one, you don't have a lot of land anymore.
Yes. Yeah, Karen, that is the challenge of living in or managing a highly urbanized city where migration, of course, is a common occurrence. And just to give you an example, way back in 2010, our population was about 2.7 million people, and now it's about 3.1 million. So you can see how our city has grown in terms of its population. So one thing that we're trying to do, number one, is we're going to try to build upwards. So first, in the previous administration, they would all build the low-rise housing, and that is no longer feasible in a city like ours where land is very scarce and very valuable. So now we're building 12 to 20-story buildings for our housing projects. And then second, of course, there's a cut-off date, Karen. So after the census of 2015, anybody who comes into our city is no longer qualified to avail of our housing programs. We have to take care of those who have been living in our city already for years, and the cutoff date is 2015. And so we are also encouraging, we're very, very strict now with our barangay officials to make sure that if people start building little shanties in their properties, these have to be taken down, because we already have ordinances in place to make sure that this does not proliferate anymore in our city.
Oh, no, it's quite admirable that what you did was something very strategic and very specific. So if you are moving to Quezon City after 2015, is it right to say that you no longer are qualified to avail of socialized housing in QC, even if you can afford to pay?
You can avail of housing programs provided by the private sector, because we also have private sectors, developers who are building for low-income families. So of course they can avail of that. But we, I believe, have to prioritize the citizens of our city who have been living here at least before 2015. Otherwise, it's also not fair. We have to start with those who have been living and investing and working here and contributing to the development of the city earlier on.
Okay, all right. Mayor Rene naman, I want to ask Mayor Rene of San Carlos City. What you did was quite impressive, no? In San Carlos City. Mayor, can you hear me?
Karen, manghina ng audio mo.
Oh, eto po. Naka-full volume po ako. Ito, Mayor Rene, can you hear me?
Sige, okay po, sige.
Ayan. Mayor Rene, the fact that you've been awarded, no, itong Galing Pook for many years, ibig sabihin you're really doing something exemplary sa San Carlos City. Moving forward, ilan pa po ba ang kailangan po ninyo ang patayuan ng bahay, and what challenges are you seeing after the lockdown?
Karen, ito lahat anchored ito sa local surety plan of 2020 to 2028. Sa ngayon po, meron po tayong backlog, no? Based on the study from our employees, no, sa housing employees natin. We have around 7,342 backlog po sa ngayon.
Okay.
At naka-program naman na meron tayo pang mabibigyan. Meron tayo na naka-program na bibigyan ng 2,244 units lote po.
Oo. Okay. So itong backlog na ito, Mayor Rene, is it going to be more difficult to build now after the pandemic, after considering medyo we can see how the economy has suffered?
Hindi naman po kasi San Carlos City, we're not providing them housing. It's a program of the government which was implemented in 1998. Lote lang po, lote para po sa mahirap. So ang ibig sabihin po, itong lote, ina-award natin sa informal settlers, tutulungan po ng government, i-relocate natin. Ano natin yung bahay, we will help them in evicting their house and transfer them sa lote po nila.
Okay. What incentive, Mayor Rene, can your city offer to engage the private sector and developers to help you?
Incentive po, wala po kami binibigay na incentive sa developer kasi local government ang developer. Local government po ang naglaland banking, local government po ang nagde-develop. Binibigay po ina-award po natin sa informal settlers. Gaya na sinabi ko po kanina, yung informal settlers na binibigyan natin ng binibentahan natin ng lupa, this about 40 plus square meters, every day po magbabayad lang po sila ng 5 pesos every day for 5 days a week hanggang for 5 years. After that, itong lote po, sa kanila na po yan. The government will accommodate the titling, the process of titling of their property at ina-award, binibigay na po natin sa kanila.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mayor Rene. I want to ask naman si Mr. Tony Petwanico of Mandaue City. How do you prevent illegal settlers from returning to their previous place of residence? Kasi you're a big city, I'll ask that of Quezon City also.
Yes, Karen, actually, yung ginawa namin sa mga informal settlers currently occupying on danger areas is naghanap kami ng ibang area for relocation. And And in fact, one of the good example here is the 6.5 relocation site in Barangay Pacnan, wherein the Habitat for Humanity is one of our partners in this endeavor. So 1,200 na yung na-relocate namin. Tapos we collaborated with the DPWH for possible project for mitigating measures. At the same time, we introduced beautification of the tree replacements, which was already cleared by informal settlers.
Okay. What about you, Mayor Joy? I'm curious. That's more challenging for Quezon City. How do you prevent legal settlers from coming back? It's so open. People do business in Quezon City.
Yeah, Karen, with regards to your question about that's why we developed an in-city housing program. No, that is exactly the reason why we decided to do in-city, even if in the past the philosophy was it should be those who can afford housing in the city that should stay in the city. I find that kasi very discriminatory. And what was going on in the past is ISFs who could not afford to live in Quezon City because nga housing was more of a commodity in Quezon City were forced to go, no choices. That's why for me important ang choice. So pinapunta sa probinsya through NHA housing. Pero bumabalik nga sila kasi wala naman pangkabuhayan sa probinsya, wala naman silang educational systems doon sa ibang mga relocation sites. And that is exactly what we want to avoid now, no? Kaya we feel that through in-city housing, rental housing is something I feel is very affordable to everyone. Yung mga naghahanap buhay dito, kahit mahirap na mahirap, may pagkakataon silang tumira sa lungsod na kinagisnan nila. Yan ang aking advocacy, Karen. No? Now, with regards to informal settlers that are coming just now, yun yung kailangan talaga nating i-enforce via our various our vice barangay captains, no? Because given the size of our city, I know I would like to compare halimbawa with Marikina. During the time I think of Bayani Fernando, he was able to enforce because napakaliit ng lungsod ng Marikina. Sa amin naman, we really have to empower our barangay officials to be the ones to really exercise political will and advise our informal settlers just coming in na wag na kayong dito magstay and they can demolish the housing if the housing is just being built. Paggawa pa lang, pwede nilang yan i-dismantle. Ang hindi natin pwedeng i-dismantle yung matagal na kasing nakatayo. No?
Oo, tama. Okay, I'm curious, are you able to, Mayor Joy, are you able to leverage our housing agencies for private and people partnerships to help your issues?
Yes, I'm very grateful that the NHA is here. HUDC is in fact across from City Hall. So they've been very, very helpful. No? So I work very closely with both agencies, all these housing agencies of the national government. In fact, I'm very happy to note that one of the blighted areas here in Quezon City, it's along Nia Road. I don't know, Karen, if you're familiar with Nia Road. It's in the central part of Quezon City, but it's very, very blighted. And I've just come to an agreement with the NHA through General Manager Escalada that we will be able to use that property owned by the NHA on a use-of-rock basis. We will be able to build high-rise structures there for our informal settler families, but using NHA properties. That's one example. And the second example is the NHA have started building high-rise buildings in one part of Quezon City, but because the management of let's say, the beneficiary list, the management of the properties, etc., is quite difficult, they have decided to turn over these buildings to the Quezon City government. And we will already be the ones to take care of choosing the beneficiaries to be located into these high-rise structures of theirs. So that's just one example. And then, of course, there's this segment 8.2, which is a NLEX project. For years, they've been talking about building it, but there will be 18,000 families dislocated or displaced because of this project. One thing I've been... Oo nga, 18,000 families yon. But what I've been doing is fighting with these families. So they have come up with their own plan. Now, given the budget that will be downloaded to the by the DPWH, the NHA, the people have come together and come up with a people's plan together with the city government. So that this is the plan that we will be presenting to the national government to be implemented using the funds downloaded by the DPWH to the NHA. No? So that's how we work here. We realize, Karen, that if the people are not involved in the planning of their housing programs, these programs will not be successful. And so this is one of the, I think, hallmarks of our administration. It's really people participation.
Okay, very interesting. Mayor Bustillo, how are you ensuring in San Carlos that the houses that are being constructed by the ISFs are compliant with VP 220 standards?
Saan sa standard? Ano yung standard ng...
There's a question here. This is from one of those watching. How does the LGU ensure that the houses constructed by the ISFs are compliant with VP 220 standards?
Saan sana? Compliance ng structures, compliance ng national housing. Ayaw mo question niya. Hindi ko masyad nagputol-putol.
Paano po kayo nakakasiguro na compliant?
Ito po, yung housing po sa ngayon, ito pong housing na ginagawa natin ngayon, Karen, lahat po ay in partnership with Habitat Humanity. So lahat po are in compliance at meron lang siguro kaming meron lang mga proposal na we are trying to improve kasi noon when they presented to us the structures sa housing structures, we were suggesting to them na lagyan natin ng garahe. Kasi noon po, walang garahe po, bahay lang yung binibigay nila sa atin. Ngayon may garahe. And ito po at lahat ay minomonitor ng HLURB. So kung compliance po, yes, we are.
What about Mandaue City? I'm curious, no, sa Mandaue, Mr. Tony Pet, ilan po ba ang gumagawa ng low-income housing nyo and social housing in Mandaue?
Well, actually, in Mandaue City, Karen, we already have 33 housing projects in partnership with the Social Housing Finance Corporation, National Housing Authority, and Habitat for Humanity. And in fact, we have already established a local shelter plan, and I think it was already approved last week in the Sangguniang Panglungsod. That will serve as our map, no, for our housing backlog. So this is one way of a proactive approach that we are going to undertake and to guide us to resolve the housing backlog in our city.
Okay. Meron, in Mandaue, I'm curious, how much is your backlog now?
As per record on file, we have already established 8,000 plus, more or less, housing backlog.
8,000 homes. And do you also have, parang like Quezon City, let's say if you move to Mandaue after a certain year, you're no longer qualified for the local government socialized housing, or wala pa kayong ganun?
Well, sa amin, Karen, yung identified beneficiaries namin sa aming relocation, we see to it that it will go through the process of the beneficiary selection committee to prevent any professional squatters. Now, once they will be included on the list of our beneficiaries, then they will be declared as one of the residents on that area and community.
Okay. I think to close, I'll start with Mayor Joy to close our panel discussion this morning. What do you believe? What does your city need? What would you like to see more from the national government to really address the housing backlog in the Philippines? Ilang administrasyon na ang nagdaan. We even remember during the time of former President Aquino, they boasted to setting aside the largest in the budget for housing, and yet we did not see a dramatic change. Ano ang kailangan, Mayor Joy? you really see...
Alam mo, Karen, totoo yan. Everyone always commits to housing, and then later on you just get really disappointed, and that's happened to us so many times. And yet I always say that if you make a dent in Quezon City, you've already made a dent in the country, given the size of our informal settler population, no? But having said that, medyo, you just have to manage your expectations. At isa sa hinihingi ko sa national government, sana yung balanced housing compliance. Karen, kasi may batas tayo na dapat kunwari gagawa ka ng subdivision o gagawa ka ng condominium, dapat may pag subdivision, 15% should go towards building housing for the poor. Pag condominium, dapat at least 5% should go towards building housing for the poor. Pero ang nangyayari, yung dinadala nila yung 15% tsaka 5% nila, kahit sa Quezon City sila gumagawa, they bring it outside Quezon City. So hindi kami nagbe-benefit dyan. Sa akin lang, no, if they can just commit to that, that's such a simple thing. Hindi naman paggagastusan ng national government. They just need the political will to say, developer, yung 15% dalhin mo rin sa Quezon City, yung 5% condominium developer sa Quezon City mo lang dalhin. Malaking tulong na po yan sa amin, Karen. I will not ask for lofty things from them anymore.
Yes, yeah. But that's quite major. Are you strict in following that with your developers in Quezon City? Do you ask for that?
In Quezon City, we have an ordinance, but then because it's the HLURB that actually oversees this, where the money goes, the national government plays a very big role. Even if we have an ordinance, we are not the ones who oversee that this is complied with. And so that is what I'm hoping and praying for, that the national government will listen to us and help us, no, that to bring these funds to the Quezon City government and to its informal sector beneficiaries.
Wow. Okay. Well, Mayor Joy Belmonte, bravo to you and all the work that you've done in housing. I think you deserve a hand for that, definitely. I'll go to Mr. Tony Petwanico first of Mandaue City. If you had a wish list to the national government to address the backlog in a genuine way, what would it be, Mr. Tony Pet?
Well, we believe in the city. We believe that the national agency can help us to give or to provide more shelter to our informal settlers is to formally implement the 20% balanced housing. And in fact, this is a good manifestation that the city already considered as one of the established 100 million for our site development and 6.5 relocation site. So I think that would be more enough for us to gain assistance to these offices or departments from the national agencies. And not only that, we also incorporated the public-private participation in every projects that we have. And I do believe that if the city can do this much, if we have some partnership or other stakeholder partners can assist us in terms of funding our relocation sites, well, I think it would be best that we can do more to help these informal settlers in terms of tenuity of their housing. And we believe that the city, with all these accomplishments that we have, it can be replicated to other areas in our city also. Not only in our city, but also government units also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tony Petwanico of Mandaue City. Mayor Rene Gustilo of San Carlos City, what would you want the national government to act on for housing, for the housing backlog all over the Philippines to really have a dramatic shift?
Karen, dapat kasi maliit na city lang kami compared to other highly urbanized cities. Dapat the national government tingnan nila yung San Carlos City or maliliit na city who are really serious in addressing the problem of the informal settlers. Like in our case, kami naman po bumibili ng lupa. Bumibili kami ng lupa, develop it, and right now ito namang Habitat for Humanity pumasok. Sila po ay nagbibigay ng housing units to the beneficiary. Lahat naman po, hindi naman natin pwede gawin ito sa government lang. Dapat local, national, at ito pong Habitat for Humanity. Maraming salamat din po sa kanila for coming it. Malaki pong matutulong nila po para ma-address natin yung shortage ng mga bahay to the informal settler po.
Pero binanggit nyo ang Habitat for Humanity. Ang tanong ko sa inyo, Mayor Rene, what about the National Housing Authority ng gobyerno? Ang laki ng pondo nun. Sapat ba ang ginagawa ng NHA?
National housing naman po, marami po silang mga requirements. Kami po naman, simple lang ang amin. We will just buy the lot, award that to the informal settlers. Then yung mga informal settlers naman, sila naman unti-unti, years by year, ini-improve naman nila yung bahay. Meron po tayong lote para sa mahirap. Ito po yung Galing Pook Award na natanggap namin sa national government. Sana po maging model ito at mabigyan ng pansin ng national government para, well, of course, kung tutulungan nila kami, mas mabuti po.
Thank you so much, Mayor Rene Gustilov, San Carlos City, Mayor Joseph Quezon City, Sir Tony Petuanico from Mandaue City. God bless all of you, and thank you so much. Thank you. So, great discussion, and we also want to include in this session the result of the studies that Habitat's Villager Center for Innovation in Shelter conducted to provide further current housing context. Let's watch this video. All right, we just saw a video that actually focuses on owner-driven construction. So maybe I'll start with Mayor Joy. No? The national budget for housing is very limited. This 2021, it's only 632 million.
Para mas
what what is a possible solution for you to assist owner-driven construction?
Karen, I'm not so sure what owner-driven construction means. It's people who want to build their own houses.
I think so, definitely. And there's a whole market that isn't qualified for either social support. I saw in the video that there's a market that's too poor to actually, let's say, get loans. There's certain requirements that they don't fall into.
Well, in our situation, all I can say is that in our menu of housing projects, no, we try to make this as diverse as possible, and that's why I mentioned to you earlier, Karen, that we have direct sales. So if you're living in a property that doesn't belong to you, the city will buy that property, and then you can buy the property from the city. And we have an in-city financing scheme that is flexible, no. So other financing institutions kasi are not flexible, no, Karen. That's why we in Quezon City have our own, and it takes into consideration the erratic incomes of some members of our communities. Yung mga daily wage earners, okay, yung mga pag nagka-pandemya wala na silang kita, no? So putol yung pagbabayad nila ng kanilang housing utang, no? So what we do is pag galing sa city yung financing scheme, we can adjust to the times, no? At pwede kayong magbayad given the circumstances of your condition at present, no? So yan ang isa sa mga developments ng aming lungsod, no? Towards that end. So that's where we're now concentrating because it's a pandemic. So rather than building first, kasi hindi rin tayo makakasigurado na yung construction sector makakapag-deliver on time. We are just buying now properties where informal settlers already live in, and they want to buy that property from the owner, and we're helping finance them. We're helping them to procure that property for themselves and to have titles to that land. Yeah.
Okay. Mayor Rene, is that a problem you're seeing in San Carlos? I think itong owner-driven construction, the context is, this is very low-income owner-driven construction. Kumbaga, mahirap na pamilya, sila na lang nagtatayo. So, maraming problema sa pagtatayo nila, walang suporta. Problema po yan sa San Carlos?
Karen, kasi itong programa, itong Lote para sa Mahirap started in 1998. So, nung we transferred the informal center po sa Lote para sa Mahirap, wala po kaming nakikita na nagkaroon ng malaking problema sa pagtayo ng bahay. Kasi itong lumang bahay nila, na-transfer natin sa Lote.
Okay.
Dito po, every year, dahil sa kanila na po yung lupa, ang nangyari po, dahan-dahan nila ginagawa, yung ini-improve nila yung bahay. Sa ngayon po, makikita nyo po, from the time the government transferred them sa Lote para sa Mahirap, up to the present, kukunti na lang pong bahay makikita nyo na nipa. Lahat po, semi-concrete na, yung iba nakapag-asawa ng foreigner, nakapag-asawa ng foreigner po.
Owner-driven noon, owner-driven construction, ngayon umuunlad na.
Yun, umuunlad na po, naging 3-story building na po yung bahay nila. From a simple nipa hut. So, ito po, dahil po ng programa ng local government, very low payment lang po. Sabi ko kanina po sa opening statement ko, 5 pesos a day lang po ang babayaran po nila for 5 days a week. Libre po, Saturday, Sunday. Hindi na po sila magbabayad yan for 5 years. So, after 5 years, fully paid na po yan. Naging the government naman po ang facilitate na maibigay sa kanila, matransfer yung title sa pangalan po ng beneficiary.
Alright.
So, dito po, hindi po sila dapat, ito po naman, naging magandang precedence po ng local government na sinasabi natin no vote, i-vote. Alam mo po yan? No vote, i-vote po. Pag hindi ka bumoto, hindi ka bumoto sa amin, you will be evicted. Ito po, hindi po, kasi iyo na po yung lupa.
Oo, tama naman yun. Huwag naman ganun. Oo.
Ito pong demokrasya na we introduce to the informal settlers po.
Okay. All right, Mayor Rene. Mayor Tony Pet, I will ask you to react to the next video. Okay, so we can move on. Can we now show the next video? This is an analysis of housing after COVID-19. Can we roll that?
Sorry, Karen, cutting out. Wala signal. Ang signal mo. Come again, Karen. Sorry, yung signal namin nawawala.
Just hold your thought. We will roll. We will show a next video, and you can react to this video. All right, Mr. Tony Pen Juanico from Mandaue City, you saw the video, and essentially the
Yes.
video showed just how affected construction was, the housing market was because of COVID. So, ano ang nakikita nyo with
Yes.
Mandaue being a very populous city? How did COVID affect construction in your city?
Well, it really affects a lot, Karen, no? Considering that yung companies, they are very hesitant because of this pandemic that we have right now. But in our end, in the local government unit in Mandaue City, what we did right now is a thorough validation of those potential beneficiaries, no? And we are trying to help them to augment their income so that they can sustain the housing program that we have right now. Yun ang nakita namin na isang solution while having this kind of pandemic, because the construction is very conservative right now, no? Considering the fact that yung COVID medyo nakaapekto talaga. So yung nangyari dito sa amin sa city, we are trying to validate those potential beneficiaries for our future housing program. Of course, in partnership with other stakeholder partners from the national and from the other non-governmental organization.
Okay, perhaps Mayor Joy, just very quickly, no? Paano ka naapektuhan ng COVID itong housing market ninyo and construction? And what can you do to like reignite?
Yeah, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, Karen, earlier, no, all construction ceased during the quarantine. So wala talagang construction. Kaya ang ginawa na lang ng lungsod para hindi naman masayang ang panahon is we started land acquisition activities, no, so we were purchasing land, we were entering into agreements with the people who wanted to donate their land, we were entering into agreements with people who wanted to make their land use for housing, etc. So hindi na sayang yung 1 year na yan, no. So actually once the pandemic dies down and we're able to construct again, we already have the land assets to build on. That's one thing that I can reassure the public. And then second, yung construction workers na wala ng pangkabuhayan, we have a continuous program of helping those who are displaced, no? Not only construction workers but all displaced workers. So ilan lang yan sa mga programa natin, Karen.
Okay, all right. So I'll have Mayor Rene answer from the audience before we open the Q&A to our participants. We have almost 500 joining us in Zoom and thousands more through Facebook and our YouTube live stream right now. Let's watch first these videos from our partners. Okay, we want to thank our partners first this morning. Can we air that?
Kahit triple na ang level ng likot ni baby, kaya yan ng bagong triple leak protection ng EQ Pants. Merong triple levels ng harang para iwas leaks. Anytime, anywhere. Kampante si mommy on the go. New EQ Pants with triple leak.
For us housing officials, as part of our guiding principle, we consider shelter as a right of every Filipino family. Maraming salamat at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Are you a stakeholder in the construction industry? Ever wondered how you can give back to the community using your main products and services? Or are you a non-profit involved in building structures and facilities aimed at helping the poor and overcoming poverty? Fair Building Network is an organization aimed at creating a more socially inclusive construction market. The Fair Building Network is a social marketplace facilitating collaboration to help improve the life of those less fortunate while creating business opportunities. To be part of the Fair Building Network, visit the website and click on Get Involved. It only takes a couple of minutes to build a better life for people less fortunate than us around the world.
All right. Okay. Now we have questions from our viewers. You know what? I'm gonna ask questions directly from Facebook right now. Ito may ilang mga tanong. Very quickly lang kay Mayor Joy Belmonte. Mayor Joy, just quick responses Okay. From Merlin Calapano. Paano po ako pwede makasali sa pabahay po ninyo, ma'am? Matagal na po ako nangungupahan dito sa Batasan Hills, Quezon City.
Pwede po kayong tumuloy sa amin pong tanggapan, yung HCDR, Dear Housing and Community Rehabilitation and Development Department. At nandyan po yung menu ng mga pabahay na ino-offer po namin sa amin pong mga mamamayan. Humingi lang po ako ng konting pasensya kasi hindi po tayo nakapagpagawa ng napakarami ngayong nakaraang taon dahil sa pandemya, pero at least nakapila na po kayo for future developments. Pwede na po kayo mag-waitlist.
Okay, great answer. Si Juju Juanilio, sabi niya, Mayor Rene, we're watching right now from Barangay Bagonbon, San Carlos City, Negros Occidental. At ang tanong po na pwede sagutin ni ni Mayor is, I have some questions that are coming in here. Is there a way, Mayor Rene, for the LGUs to regulate the land cost to prevent more homeless families?
Kaya sa libro ng gobyerno
Wala.
Kasi hindi pwede yan.
Oo.
Meron tayong ina-assess po ng local government kung magkano talaga yung land value. Doon po tayo nagbe-base ng price. In the city po, meron tayong commercial value din, which is wala na yan sa government. Minsan, kung isipin mo, sa value ng government, ang cost of value is 5,000. Pero may mga pumupuntang na
okay.
Hindi natin makukontrol yan.
Yeah. Oo. Thank you, Mayor Rene. Oo.
Ngayon, yung informal settlers,
okay.
At livelihood program po sa bundok.
Okay, Mayor Rene, you're going on and off. Let me go first to Mr. Tony Pet right now. Mr. Tony Pet, please, just a very quick answer. Is Mandaue City looking at certain budget allocation scheme that can help subsidize the cost of construction for affordable housing in your city? Microphone, sir. Your mic, can you turn it on?
Okay, in relation to that, meron na tayong natawag na trust fund sa city for appropriation of that budget. Of course, it should be referred to our budget officer for that appropriation, but meron na tayong trust fund for that.
Okay, meron na. Okay, huli na lang ito, no? May nagtanong rin for Quezon City. Mayor Belmonte, you're making a high-rise development. Is that sustainable in terms of facility maintenance? Siguro kasi low income ang mga nakatira po doon. Ang tanong, what about elevator use? Will you be charging a monthly association fee? Paano po yun, Mayor?
Well, una, nabanggit ko, Karen, yung priority natin ngayon is rental housing. And sinabi kong rental housing kasi napakarami po sa ating mga mamamayan ay na-cut off po sa housing market. Kahit na naggumagawa po tayo ng socialized housing nung nakaraang administrasyon, still, hindi po ito affordable talaga sa pinakamahihirap. And rental housing, for me, is the answer to the needs of the very, very poor who we depend on many of our needs as well in the city. No? So, ayan muna ang ating priority. So subsidized talaga yan kasi yung pabahay hindi naman mawawala sa city government yan. It will be maintained by the city government. At yung 800 na babayaran nila, pang maintenance talaga yan ng gusali, no? Ngayon we're also exploring doon naman sa mga pabahay na nabibilhin ng mga mamamayan natin using the different national government financing schemes, kung pwede yung first 2 stories baka maging commercial siya. So that in that way we can sustain and maintain the building as well. And yung mga taong bayan na nakatira dyan, pwede rin sila magkaroon ng maliit na negosyo doon sa building kung saan sila nakatira. So these are some of the things we're exploring now, Karen.
All right, thank you very much. Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte, San Carlos City Mayor Rene Gustilo, Mr. Tony Petuanico of Mandaue City, thank you so much for your time this morning. And I'd like to introduce now Monica Albert Lopez for the closing remarks. God bless all of you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is true that access to adequate and affordable housing is a governmental obligation and the right of every Filipino. As an architect and designer of healthy communities myself, I am so pleased to hear of the successful housing projects led by the local governments of Quezon City, Mandaue City, and San Carlos City. We all know that poverty housing has been a perennial issue, and that year after year, the Philippine housing gap continues to increase incrementally. The COVID-19 pandemic has even further aggravated the issue, threatened the production of socialized and economic housing units, and pushed back numerous building plans. Now, more than ever, the government, private sector, and organizations should invest more in safe, affordable, and disaster-resilient housing in order to spur economic development and to protect families from future pandemics and disasters. Government and local government units must provide conducive and facilitating environment so that various sectors in society may be able to easily participate. This too will drive housing investments. I would like to underline that the LGUs play a very significant role in providing low-income families access to housing. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Habitat for Humanity Philippines, I am so grateful to Karen Davila for brilliantly moderating the discussion and asking tough but informative questions to our speakers. Our sincere thanks to Mayor Joy Belmonte, Mayor Rene Gustilo, and Tony Petuanico, representing Mayor Jonas Cortez, for sharing your insights and experience in addressing your local housing issues. To all our co-organizers, the Department of Human Settlement and Urban Development, Habitat's Terwilliger Center of Innovation and Shelter, BSI Asia, Fair Building Network, and our main sponsor, JS Unitrade Merchandise Inc., thank you for being one with us in this initiative. We could have not have done this virtual event without your partnership and collaboration. To close, Habitat for Humanity Philippines recognizes and lauds the effort of the House of Representatives Committee on Housing and Urban Development in approving a resolution declaring a housing crisis in the Philippines. This is an important declaration that we strongly believe will galvanize government and private sector resources to speed up house construction, particularly for the socialized and economic segment. We all have a responsibility to address the housing crisis because this is not a problem anyone can solve alone. As Habitat for Humanity Philippines continues its mission to build a country where everyone has a decent place to live, we look forward to working and collaborating with you all in addressing the housing issues faced by millions of Filipino families. Thank you once again for your participation, and we will see you at the third BAHAYnihan Forum. We wish you all God's blessings, good health, and wellness. Thank you and goodbye.